Hi everyone, welcome to our very first Peer Up session. We're very excited to have all of you guys here. Just a quick intro before we get started. Peer Up is a student-led initiative which connects students with alumni and college professionals for meaningful discussions that address real high school experiences and challenges. Just a few guidelines before the session starts. Please stay on mute and keep your video off to minimize distractions. Maintain respectful communication in the chat, and questions are highly encouraged in the chat window at any time. There will be a Q&A session at the end, and the session will be recorded with potential clips shared later. Now today, Ashley Woertz will be speaking, and she's a junior at Brown University studying computer science and computational neuroscience, and she's going to give her valuable insights from her educational journey. Thank you, and now off to you, Ashley.
Thanks for the intro. I'm excited to be here today and to share my experience in high school. Is everyone able to see my screen? Great. So this is things I wish I knew when I started high school. So we'll start with a little bit about me. My name is Ashley, and I'm excited to be here with you today, as I said. I'm originally from New Jersey, but this summer I am in Redmond interning at Microsoft. Uh, I presume some of you guys are from nearby. I am going to be a senior this fall at Brown, graduating in May, where I study computer science and cognitive neuroscience. Outside of school, I love playing field hockey, throwing a frisbee, sailing, hiking, and I also have some more chill hobbies like trying new coffee shops, watching movies, spending time with my dogs. My family actually has four. They're pictured there on the bottom left. And I actually started high school in 2018, which feels like forever ago at this point. But nevertheless, I have a lot of advice to share about my journey going through high school and what I wish I knew before I started. So to start off, I'm curious, what grade is everyone in? If you could put it in the chat. 8th, 10th, 9th. Oh, nice. A lot of rising freshmen. Awesome. Okay, so our agenda for today, I'm going to go through how you shouldn't be nervous about going into high school. I think people make it seem a lot worse than it really is. About being yourself versus trying to fit in, finding good friendships, some academics and good habits, and about how you don't need to have your whole life planned out in high school. So first up, we have how high school can be great. I know many of us have seen Mean Girls, High School Musical, or really any other Netflix show where high school seems like total chaos, constant drama. And surely there are, awkward, embarrassing situations or people you might not get along with. But I really think that that is not the whole picture. Compared to middle school, high school gives you a lot more freedom, both in your schedule and in how you choose to spend your time. You start to have more control over what classes you take, what activities you join, and who you surround yourself with. For me, I think high school was way better than I expected. There were certainly stressful moments cramming for exams or worrying about college applications, but overall it was fairly fun. I joined a lot of new activities I never thought I'd try, like field hockey, where I met a lot of great people. And I have memories I still bring up today, and I'm sure for years on as well. I think high school can feel like a big change and a turning point in your life. And I'm not trying to dismiss that it can definitely be a hard time, but it's also a great time to grow into who you are as a person and learn a lot about yourself. Yeah, I think the movies tend to exaggerate and make the transition into high school seem like a bigger deal than it really is. But don't waste energy stressing about what might happen and kind of go into these years with an open mind. Try stuff, meet new people, and as cliche as it might sound, really write your own version of high school. Being yourself versus trying to fit in. So, going into high school, you might feel a lot of pressure to look a certain way or act a certain way, or even like certain things just to fit in. Um, and you might try to shape yourself into what you think other people want, because it can feel sort of safer in the moment. But I think that's pretty exhausting. You end up spending so much energy and time trying to be someone else, and you might lose sight of who you really are. I didn't grow up with social media the way that it is now, but I can't even imagine the pressure you all must feel. I found that social media makes it easy to think you need to look or act a certain way to belong. Um, Early in high school, I definitely dressed the way I thought I was supposed to and what was trendy. And looking back now, I realized that wasn't my style at all. I cringe a little, but I think it's funny because when I was in high school, ripped skinny jeans and Uggs were certainly very popular. I tried to find some good pictures, but I couldn't. I seem to have hidden the past on that. But on the right side there, you'll see some pictures of me when I was in probably about your age there. And I know this probably sounds like something you've all heard before, and you probably have no reason to take it seriously coming from me. But when you stop trying so hard to match someone else's version of cool, you can make room for the right friendships and right opportunities. I think by my junior and senior year, I finally started to embrace who I was, and I found that those years were substantially better. So, I guess my point is, I think finding your own individuality can help you find the people to click with, and you can start dressing in clothes that you love and feel more like you. And looking back, I think this is a realization I wish I had a lot earlier, and I hope I can imprint this on you guys now, so you can start a little earlier than I did. And I do know what it's like to want to fit in. There will be moments when it's tempting to cave to peer pressure, whether it's about how you dress, what you post, what you do, or even kind of what you laugh at. But individuality is kind of a superpower. Knowing yourself, having the courage to stay true to you can be hard, but it's definitely worth it. So, friendships. Starting high school, I think most people are looking for friends. It's definitely a fresh start. I don't know if your middle school carries over to your high school. Mine did, but I know a lot don't. So really, it is a good opportunity to meet new people. You never know, someone you talk to on your first day could end up being a lifelong friend. I met one of my best friends in freshman year Spanish class, but I also have some that carried over from middle school or even elementary school. But finding the right people can also take time, so give yourself a lot of grace on that. I met some of my closest friends during my junior, even senior year. You're certainly not on a deadline. Along the way, you'll probably have a mix of friendships as well, some that stick and some that don't, and that's okay. I kind of believe that every friendship teaches you something. Some show you what a lifelong friend looks like, some help you learn boundaries, and honestly, some teach you kind of what to avoid next time. Um, and there might be some people who seem fun at first, but they end up kind of pulling you in directions that don't feel right. And if someone says maybe they're a bad influence, maybe that's your parents, maybe they're seeing something that you don't. And yeah, maybe you won't agree in the moment, but looking back, you might realize they had a point. Also, I found that some friendships just fade. There's no big fight, no dramatic ending. You just kind of grow in different directions. That's also okay. And some of those friendships might even come back around later when life brings you back together. I know that's happened for me for sure. Another thing to think about is when I was in high school, I didn't think much about having friends outside of school or like who wasn't in my immediate high school or who were maybe not even in my grade. Um, I couldn't drive, so it was hard to see people who lived a bit further away. But now I realize how valuable it is to build friendships that aren't limited by convenience. I felt like I kind of, in high school at least, made a new best friend with whoever I had the most classes with. which I think is definitely not the best strategy, but it will probably happen anyway. I think it's better to find people who are more aligned with your interests. So if you're part of any like sort of non-school clubs, community groups, or sport teams, you can meet people maybe not even from your high school with different perspectives and interests. I'd say I ended up becoming close friends with some of the seniors on my field hockey team when I was a freshman and a sophomore. And that was something new. I'd never really had friends outside of my grade. And it was exciting because they could drive me around, take me different places, and they had lots of advice to share, being a bit older and a few years ahead of where I was. But in general, my main point here is surround yourself with people who make you laugh, support you when things get hard, and make you feel like you can be yourself. I'm still close with a couple friends from high school, but I would definitely be lying if I'd said I stayed friends with everyone from first day of freshman year. But once I found people who shared my values and interests, it became so much easier to just be me. And you'll know you kind of found the right group when you feel safe being your full self around them. And but that can take some time. On the bottom there, those are some of my best friends in college, and I'll be the first to say we're kind of a big group of nerds. And if I had judged them before getting to know them, I don't think we would be friends today. But taking the time to get to know them and realizing that we clicked really well, and that your friends kind of don't have to be photocopies of you and can have many different interests is also, um, I think, what makes a great friend group or friendship. Yeah, sometimes your best friends really do come unexpectedly, which was the case for me, for sure. Okay, next up, we have habits I wish I had in high school. When I look back at my high school self, I honestly think like, wow, how did I do all of that? You start school at 8, or at least I did, and it went until 3. And then I had sports or clubs until at least 6 p.m. And after that, I'd have 2, maybe 3 hours of homework. I mean, I took on a lot of intense classes, that's probably or hopefully more than you will have. Barely had time for dinner and spending time with family and friends, and it was definitely a lot. In college now, I only have 4 classes a semester as opposed to the 6 to 7, even 8 I had in high school. So I would honestly say, there were times where high school was certainly harder than college. Um, so definitely high school requires maintaining good time management and keeping up good habits. Definitely take a while to form. So if you could get started now before, I know a lot of you are going into high school this year. So starting them now before classes even start will make a big difference. So the first I have is one habit I wish I'd built a lot earlier was getting better sleep. I found that I would stay up really late finishing homework or even watching TV or being on my phone. But here's the thing, a good night's sleep really gives you clarity to finish the assignment way faster than you would have thought in the night. And sleep definitely makes a big impact on how you feel and your mood and everything. And as a neuroscience major now, I definitely learn a lot about how important sleep is as you're still growing and need a lot of it. Um, I used to sleep in till 11 or 12 on the weekends. Even if I went to bed early, and I think that was very surprising to the rest of my family, but it came across as, like, laziness, but I really think you do need it, and now I certainly can't do that and kind of look back and wish I could sleep in that late to feel that energized, um, but can't anymore, so take advantage while you can. Sleep is really important also for your mental health and focus and mood. So try and start that habit early. It'll make your classes go by so much quicker because you'll be less tired and less bored, and then could be a little more engaged. And you'll also be able to manage the rest of your time a little bit better because you can focus in on your homework and get it done quicker, and then make time to do your hobbies or spend time with friends. So the next habit I have here is to make time for the hobbies you enjoy. High school can feel like a constant grind, but doing something just because it makes you happy is definitely not a waste of time. Whether it's drawing, playing music, gaming, baking, or just hanging out with friends, I found that those moments really recharge you and kind of remind you that you're more than your grades and your schedule, and you have some other skill sets and things that make you happy as well. For me, The next important thing for a habit I wish I had in high school was prioritizing mental health and reducing screen time. I learned, for me at least, that taking care of my mental health means listening to myself if I'm feeling overwhelmed, anxious, or just kind of off. I try to pause and ask, what do I need right now? Sometimes it's rest, sometimes it's movement, I like to go on a walk, or I kind of want to hang out with friends. Um, if I'm really stressed, sometimes I'll have what I call like an Ashley day where I'll get some work done, but I'll also carve out a lot of time to do something that brings me joy or peace. So recently, at school, finals were coming up, was really stressed, but there was a bakery I was really wanting to go to. So in that moment, I decided, I'm gonna go walk to the bakery, grab a croissant, at this because they have all different flavors, and I wanted to try one of the new ones. And this was something really small, but it kind of helped me feel grounded again. And although I took time away from studying and getting all the things I had to get done, I came back a little more refreshed, and it was a lot easier to get things done. Um, and I was more focused and ready to make progress in things. And I think if you're exhausted and your mental health is really bad, it's really challenging to start assignments and stay focused. Also, I realized that um, mental health is also about building habits that kind of support your everyday. That might mean journaling, meditating for you, maybe not me, going outside, or even just saying no to something if your plate is a little bit too full. And it's also okay to protect your peace. You don't have to sort of earn rest or make time for it. And it should kind of be built into your everyday. You don't have to be productive every single second. Um, because, sometimes just relaxing and doing nothing is really great for you as well. Another big realization for me was how much my phone was affecting my mental health this past year. So not even in high school, I was a little late to the game on this, but I made a conscious effort to reduce my screen time. Or I guess a challenge for you is next time you scroll through social media and you put your phone down, ask yourself, how much do I really remember from what I just watched, or how do I feel afterwards? For me, I often didn't feel better. Things maybe felt worse, or like everything I just consumed was brain rot, which I'm sure you are all familiar with. And I very rarely remembered what I watched. I found that reducing screen time can be really amazing for your mental health, but it's definitely hard to go cold turkey and just cut it out. What helped me was planning my day more intentionally. If I knew I had a spare hour or two later on, I'd decide that morning that I would, go on a walk or do a craft instead of having that free time where I knew I would end up on my phone. So keeping my time plan was essential for that first drop in screen time. But this is something you have to want for yourself and commit to. It takes kind of effort and self awareness. And I think also it's important to recognize your patterns. When are you most likely to start doom scrolling? Is it late at night, right after school, or when you're procrastinating? And I think once you identify these moments, you can start building some guardrails. So maybe charging your phone away from your bed or setting app limits or replacing that time with something you actually enjoy and find more meaningful. And the last habit I have is building really strong study routines. I think going into high school, the workload, for me at least, maybe doubled. And I don't mean that to scare anyone, but high school is a big step up in work because they expect more of you, and you're rotating different classes, and maybe you can choose AP classes or honors classes that can be more challenging. So for me, I had to realize, I don't get a lot of work done in my room after school. I was easily distracted. So I found that separating your space, having one for relaxing, one for working, can make a big difference. So even if it's just moving to the kitchen table or going to the library after school, can help switch your brain into that focus mode. Also, don't underestimate the power of planning, whether it's a planner, notes app, or like even just sticky notes. Having a system to track assignments, deadlines, and even goals can help reduce stress and avoid that last minute panic of, oh, I forgot this assignment. I have to do it like right now and it's midnight. Um, For me, I use Notion to track all my assignments, and I'll show that on the next slide. But I make a to-do list that I add to. If I'm sitting in class and they bring up an assignment, I'll write it down immediately, put in the due date, and I'll even break it into smaller chunks if I need to. So sometimes I'll have like a part A, B, and C of a project, um, and set deadlines for myself because I think that if you know when the deadline is, if the deadline is August 15th, then you're probably going to start it on August 14th. But if you divide that assignment to three parts and you say the first one is due on Tuesday, it's a lot more likely, at least for me, that I'll get it done on Tuesday. Um, and then, it's at least not the full assignment that I'm working on the day before. And also good habits aren't just about being perfect. They're about finding kind of what works for you. What works for me is definitely not going to work for you. But start small, be consistent, and kind of give yourself grace as you figure that out. I think they say that it takes 14 days to make a habit. So start now, and you'll be ready for the start of school. So this is my Notion page. On the left, you'll see I have a to-do list. I've done this for almost 4 years now, and I've been significantly more on top of deadlines. I wish I started this way earlier in high school. So you'll see I mark the class name, what the assignment is, the due date, and I'll put the due date sometimes like 1 to 2 days before it actually is due. And then I have a status for if it's in progress, done, or needs to be completed. And finally, I have a way to indicate if it's like a high priority assignment, so I can check off if I need to do it today. Um, and then on the right, it shows you I have sections by class name. So I have a CS class there, and under each, I store the class notes titled with the date and a short title about what's covered. Whether you use Google Drive or something else to track all your class notes, I think it's important to like name them well and put the dates, so then you can easily find exactly what you're looking for if you're writing an assignment or doing a project and need to find what you were working on in class. I highly recommend you do this, whether it's this software, different software, whatever you feel most comfortable with. I definitely found Notion as a bit of a learning curve, but it was extremely helpful once I got the templates exactly how I like them. There's some pre-built ones. I kind of made my own on these. But yeah, just stay organized, be on top of it, and don't underestimate planning by any means. I used to try a paper planner in high school, and I found that I wouldn't remember to take it out when the teacher brought up an assignment in class. So, however you think you will most easily remember to write something down is probably the best place for you to put it. Next, academics and finding the right balance. I'll say, for me, I care a lot about academics. I've always held myself to a high standard, and I think that came with a lot of stress. But it also brought opportunities to me that I wouldn't have otherwise had. I probably wouldn't be, at the school I'm at, and I feel like that kind of had a domino effect on everything that came afterwards, for scholarship, internships, and sort of other opportunities. Starting high school, you'll have more choice in the classes you take, which is really exciting, and it's great that you can challenge yourself, or maybe your parents even want you to challenge yourself. Um, I tried to take every AP class I could, but what I learned is, it's not just about stacking your schedule with hard classes. It's about finding what classes will you do really well in, or is it okay if you get uh, maybe a B looks better in AP class than consistently getting A pluses in non-honors classes, for instance. So it's kind of finding what's the right balance for you and what you can handle. If you're worried about college applications, I will say I don't think the difference between 5 or 6 AP classes is going to determine your admission. So if an additional AP class is going to cause you a ton of stress and you're going to do worse, then maybe that's not the right choice for you. For me, at least, and applying to college, I realized it's kind of about building your story and connecting your academics with your interests, your extracurriculars, and your personal experiences. I wrote essays that told sort of about my story and the extracurriculars I was involved in and I was passionate about. So I volunteered at a memory care home with residents with dementia and Alzheimer's. And through that, I met a man named Pete. He was 86 years old, and I would, volunteer with him every weekend for I think almost a year. And I wrote my essay about, this experience and how it connected to my interest in neuroscience and even kind of brought in CS with the computational neuroscience piece. And wrote my essays about that. And I truly believe that's kind of what helped me stand out in the college application process. Um, so instead of having that one extra AP class, sometimes it's better to make time to do extracurriculars you're really passionate about and maybe work on a passion project. So something that you take initiative with and start on your own. So that you can demonstrate to colleges that you're really proactive, you have something you're really interested in, and are willing to take on that challenge to get it done. Um, so find that balance. I think, it's great to challenge yourself with hard classes, but make sure that you also are putting time into extracurriculars and mental health and all those things. So start with a few challenging courses and build up each year. Take classes you're genuinely interested and are ready to take on the workload for, but not just because they look good. I think colleges definitely care about rigor, but they care about who you are, what you do, what you know, and how you've grown over time. Find balance. Academics are important, but so is mental health, sleep, friendships, hobbies. You're not a machine. You're a person with a full life, and that matters kind of beyond your GPA as well. Next myth I have is you need to have your life planned out. I'm sure you've all been asked, what do you want to be when you grow up 1,000 times? And you don't have to figure it all out in high school or even college for that matter, and that's completely normal. When I was your age, I think I thought I was going to be a vet and then a doctor and an artist was in there at some point, and none of those are in my future anymore. What you might want could change 5 times, 50 times, and that's kind of part of learning who you are. I know I've certainly changed that idea many, many times. So don't stress over having a plan and focus on trying things. Join a sport you've never played, take an art class, even if you can't draw a stick figure, and kind of talk to people with different interests. I encourage you all not to just jump into only doing chemistry clubs because you think you want to be a chemist, because maybe you don't know it yet, but joining journalism club will kind of show you that you love journalism and that's what you want to do instead. I think there's a lot of pressure to figure out, who you are, what you want to do in high school, maybe even from your parents. But at least from what I've noticed, definitely the most successful people have changed paths a zillion times. These are great years to experiment. And things will change, and that's okay. But just don't stress too much. High school is going to be great. I trust you all will have some really great years ahead of you. I hope you take some of this advice. Next, so if you have any questions, I'm also happy to answer anything over email. I will put that in the chat as well.
Thank you so much, Ashley. A lot
Yeah.
of that really resonated with me, and I think a lot of us can relate to those experiences and tips, especially about balancing academics with friendships and finding out what really matters. Now, I think we can hear more from you through the Q&A session. I know a few questions have been asked, so on to you, Ritesh.
Yes, so a couple questions have been asked in chat while you were speaking, and the first question that was asked was, will old friends from middle school stay your friends?
Yeah, I think that depends. I have friends still to this day who I knew in middle school, but I also have a lot that I'm no longer friends with. And I think the differentiation between the ones I'm still friends with and the ones I'm not friends with were the ones that kind of stuck by my side over time and maintained touch. When you start high school, you're probably going to be in different classes from your middle school best friends. So you have to like kind of be proactive and want to hang out with the people and make time to hang out with them, because you're not going to maybe see them on your day to day for several hours like you used to in middle school. Um,
I can at
so I
least
think,
email them.
sorry.
You can at least email them.
That's true. Yeah, there's, with the internet the way it is today, there's so many ways you can connect with people. You can text them, ask to hang out after school, things like that. But I think the people that stayed in my life are the ones that, really made an effort to hang out with me. And still to this day, we make time and make things work, even if we only have, 2-week crossover when we are available to see each other. And also the people you're going to be friends with, um, and the friendships that you maintain are kind of people who have your best interest in mind, celebrate your wins with you, aren't kind of jealous, and are there for you if you're going through something tough. So I think that kind of differentiates between who you stay friends with and maybe who you don't.
Thank you. Someone else asked if there was a certain minimum number of APs to take, and if you think it's the high number of APs that got you into Brown.
Yeah, so I took just about every AP class in my school offered, but I will say I have tons of friends at Brown who took 4, 5 APs, maybe even less. Um, and I think, what they had that maybe I had less of was they were really passionate about an extracurricular and had a really big project, started nonprofits, or, were really great figure skaters kind of thing. Um, and so they put a lot of time into a talent or an extracurricular. And I think that kind of balances out the number of APs and honors and everything you take. But I think at this point, everyone who's applying to a school like mine has meets the requirements of like great GPA, great classes, and everything in general. So that's kind of just like meeting the bar as you do while in school, and then you have to like kind of set yourself apart with your interests and your essays and your extracurriculars. So you're not going to stand out by having more AP classes because there's going to be a lot of people that also have a lot of AP classes, if that makes sense. But yeah, I know plenty of people in my school who did not take as many as I did. And if you taking one less reduces your stress significantly and helps you do better in all of your classes, then I recommend doing that. But it's definitely important to challenge yourself as well.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for that. And we have another question here, which is asking, were you switched on academically from your freshman year, or did you start becoming more academically focused later on in high school?
Yeah, I think it kind of started for me towards the beginning of high school because it was really important for me to you know, apply to college and I had high ambitions for college. So I knew that I really wanted to do well and I had that kind of personal motivation rather than like an external pressure to do well. So I started taking some honors level classes my freshman year. But I think I became more motivated as the years went on because um, of kind of pressure I put on myself to do really well. I think I also realized that like, math maybe wasn't my strong suit. It's like more sciencey, like biology kind of classes were. So I realized like I could do a lot better taking, biology and chem and kind of the math was a more challenging piece for me. So I think by like sophomore, junior year, I realized I need to put more time into improving my math skills and things like that. So there definitely was a switch for me a little later on in high school that like I realized I wasn't like as well rounded in all my classes and I needed to like put more motivation into like working on the math and things. Especially with like as the SAT and everything was coming up. So freshman year, I tried my best, but there was definitely some realization at the end that like I need to put more focus and motivation into making sure that I'm well rounded and do well in all of my classes.
Thank you. Another person asked if you didn't have a lot of like friends in middle school, are study groups also an option to make more friends in high school?
Yeah, I think there are so many ways in high school to make more real friends because everyone's going into it kind of looking to meet new people. I think study groups are great because you're going to find people who have, similar motivation to do work. Um, my friends, like I mentioned, are fairly nerdy, and sometimes on Saturdays we watch a movie while doing homework together. So kind of finding those kind of people for me was really helpful, and I kind of had to go to like more academic kind of spaces to find them. But yeah, if your interest is study groups or your interest is like, a sport, being active in extracurriculars and putting a lot of time and effort and energy into like going to these events, maybe even planning them yourself will kind of help connect you with the people who have these shared interests and also enjoy study groups. But yeah, I think study groups is a good one because, if you go to like for instance, I met a lot of friends through field hockey. Um, those are kind of like a niche interest. And I think it's also nice to have friends who like have very different interests from you. Like in college now, I have no friends that play field hockey. But a study group is a place where you can meet people of all different interests. So I think that's a good idea for sure.
Okay, so the next question we have for you, Ashley, is do you have any time management tips and do you use Pomodoro?
Yeah, okay, time management tips, calendar. I didn't use a calendar in high school and I use it religiously now. I have all my classes out on a calendar and I kind of plan out my time for the day. And if I know I have a really big assignment, I will block out my schedule in advance because then, if class is finished and my friends are like, "Oh, let's go out for dinner and have kind of a fun night," then I see it on my calendar. I have this assignment to do, and it kind of helps you not forget that you have some deadline coming up. Um, so for me, time management definitely came from like using the calendar and also Notion. I have like my to-do list, so I check that every day. I know exactly what I need to do for the day, and also like putting assignments that are coming up in a month, 2 months on there as well. Keep it kind of fresh on your mind, so you're not forgetting about it and not just writing down your immediate work that you have to do. I have not like directly tried Pomodoro. I do find that like I will study for an hour and then get up and kind of walk around, maybe go grab a coffee, see friends for a second, and then get back into it. I think having that like small refresh, recharge period is definitely helpful with studying. I don't know anyone that can sit for 4 or 5 hours at a time and get everything done. Um, so yeah, it definitely helps me get more done if I take a break, eat lunch. If I'm well rested, well fed, I will get work done so much quicker. Um, Also, making sure I have a snack and water so that I don't have to get up as often is nice as well. But I think the break does help kind of recharge you.
Someone else asked, this may be different because you were in a different state, but is taking Spanish 4 required in high school?
I only know about New Jersey. I know we were required 2 years, 2 years of language classes, but maybe you guys know better. But
Yeah.
I would say I took Spanish all throughout high school and I continued into college. And I think it's really awesome to like kind of know another language. And I think in my opinion, language classes were a great place to meet other people as well, because I think the class environment is a little bit more relaxed, it's conversational. You spend a lot of time talking in pairs, doing group projects and things like that. So I'd encourage you to all take a language class as you can. I don't know what's required though.
Yeah. They also asked if taking more APs will be useful for college admissions.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, it's kind of like you got to meet a bar. They're looking for, I mean, it kind of depends on the school you're applying to, but they're looking for a certain level of academic student. Um, and taking, one or two more AP classes is not going to differentiate you. I think it's really the essays and extracurricular and who you are kind of help makes stand yourself out, because anyone can take another AP class, I think. But yeah, I definitely will say academics are very important to me. I took a lot of APs, I took a lot of honors classes. Um, so probably helped. I don't know, but I also know plenty of people who didn't take as many as I did and are exactly where I am as well.
Yeah. So the next question is, what were the extracurriculars that you did that helped with college applications?
Yeah, I think for me, so I'm trying to think what I submitted. I, volunteered at memory care homes, and I even wrote essays about, the connections I made with residents there. And I also was involved in, I did like kind of my own research paper, and this is something anyone can do. You don't need to be like kind of a part of a lab or anything, but you can kind of do your own literature review and look into articles that are out there. I kind of came up with a topic that I was interested in, that was kind of neuroscience related. I just took my own initiative, just like write a paper up about comparing different literature pieces and whatnot. Um, so there is research that you can do without like going into a lab or handing out surveys and things. um, so I kind of took initiative, did my own kind of research paper, and then that was one of the things that I submitted. I also was involved in environmental club. I was in Girls Who Code. and a few other ones, but I think, and also like captain for sports teams. So I was well-rounded when it came to a lot of clubs, but I think what's most important with clubs and extracurriculars for college is that um, you're not just a member. You kind of take initiative. Maybe you set up some kind of event. So in the environmental club, I set up like a cleanup. We did like trash can painting to make them pretty and labeled them like recycling or trash. Um, so I set up a lot of events, took initiative, wasn't just like an ordinary member because I think being just an ordinary member in anything isn't going to look very, very good. And also you kind of want it for yourself to like practice taking initiative, practice like setting up events. I think it's great skills to build while you're in high school and leadership that I wish I guess started a little sooner as well. But yeah, I guess my tip is, have a passion project, something where you take initiative on your own. For me, that was kind of research, setting up volunteering, and I kind of had this like theme of neuroscience and CS throughout my extracurriculars. But I'm certainly involved in kind of a wide range of things as well.
Thank you. Someone was asking, what, if any, practices are there to prepare for high school?
Hmm. Yeah, I'd say building time management, a good sleep schedule. Um, I think I was really nervous going into the first few weeks of high school, but kind of knowing people that are a few years ahead of you. So I had an older brother who already went through it. So I kind of knew what high school was like. Talks like these are great. I think you get to hear a little bit about what high school is like. But yeah, I think other people are a great resource to hear about high school. And I don't know much about your specific high school that you all are going to, but if there's someone you can talk to beforehand, maybe that could be really helpful in kind of easing your nerves a bit. But just knowing that it's not going to be as stressful as they make it out to be. I think you'll have a really great time and it'll be fun and exciting. And also, I joined some sports that started a little before school started, so I knew some faces. I knew a few people I could turn to if I had any issues kind of before that first day came around.
The next question is, what major changes did you make from middle school to high school?
Hmm. Yeah, I'd say I definitely became so in middle school I was friends with a lot of people who were not very academic, didn't really care about grades. And I think I went into high school and realized that that was something I cared a lot about. Um, and so what was different is I was kind of friends with new people who cared a little bit more about school as well. And having friends who care makes it a lot easier for you to also care because, maybe after school you decide to do homework together, go to the library, something like that. So for me, I had like some major friend changes. Um, some different motivation for academics. And also I was involved in a lot of new things because most of my clubs did not carry over between middle school and high school. So you kind of have a chance to try everything new. And I, went to the first meeting of 8 different clubs to kind of figure out what felt right. Um, and I think that's really important is to kind of just try a whole bunch of things and see what sticks. Um, I don't know if there are too many major changes really though between middle and high school for me.
Okay, so this next question, I mean, you already kind of answered it, but is creating a passion project important?
Yeah, I'd say I certainly did not know what I wanted to do in high school, and I think there's a lot of pressure to kind of fit into, um, everyone thinks colleges want like just one person specifically interested in neuroscience, and like a passion project based on that. But I think it's nice to, you know, have one thing that you're really passionate about that you do a project on, but also a lot of other little things and clubs and whatnot where you can like explore and try different interests. Um, but I think passion project, which when I'm saying this, like this can mean you know, starting an event in your town. Um, this could mean, giving a talk, like a TED Talk style talk. It could be a research thing you do. It could be, just teaching soccer lessons to people younger than you. It doesn't have to be like something academic per se, but that's kind of what a passion project is. It's like something you start yourself and show that you can, take initiative and I guess this really demonstrates like your leadership skills and everything to colleges. I think they're looking, at least my school, is looking for people who did something different. Like they want to say like, oh, we have the top violin player, we have a really cool ice skater, we have someone that, did a whole bunch of beach cleanups, things like that. Like they want to say that they have like these really unique people, and something like a passion project kind of helps you stand out in that regard. Um, so yeah, I do think it's important, but it also depends on, where you're applying, what you have time for, because you don't want to like overbook yourself, overcommit to anything. But if there's something you can work on the weekends, and something that you can work on for a few months, just like a couple hours here and there over a few months, kind of makes it for a really great project, I think. But also, this gives you something to write your essays about, I think. So I'd recommend, but up to you.
Great. The next question is, how do you overcome screen time addiction? I know you mentioned screen time and some things you did to reduce it. Did you have support from others? Like, how did you reduce it?
Yeah, so I think for me, a lot of it was like deleting the apps I knew I spent a lot of time on. Because, when I think about Snapchat, for instance, I was like, what am I really gaining from this? What am I missing out on if I weren't to be on there? And it's like, I kind of deleted it for a week and I was like, I don't feel like I missed out on anything at all. Um, and if I were to be on an app, for instance, like Instagram for an hour or two, I don't feel like it brought me anything good. I don't feel better. I don't feel like I learned anything new. So kind of identifying that I'm not getting much benefit from all this time on my phone, and it's really kind of draining, and maybe doesn't make me feel as great. So identifying it was like kind of the first step, and also having friends that were willing to try it with me. So when I said like, oh, I'm going without Instagram for the infinite future, I had some friends that also just deleted it. And I think like the biggest thing with Instagram was like, oh, I feel like I'm going to be missing out on things that my friends are posting or doing, and I might, kind of feel behind or left out. But I realized once I deleted it, which I'm back here and there, I'll admit. Once I deleted it, I realized I make more time into calling people and reaching out to find out what they're up to, rather than like just seeing a post that's like probably not their real reality of what's going on. So it kind of encouraged me to be more proactive and reach out to friends rather than like connecting over Instagram or something. But yeah, having people who are on your side and willing to do it with you is a big help. Um, yeah, it's hard to go cold turkey. I think you have to do little by little. Um, but like sometimes those like block the app things don't really work because you can just override it, and you learn how to override it really quickly. So yeah, that's my advice. It kind of just got to be what works for you though.
Right. So the next question is is having a high GPA without hard classes better, or is having a low GPA with like more rigorous, harder classes better for your college application?
hmm Yeah, I think it probably is like a case by case basis for sure. But I know that, for some schools there might be like a minimum GPA to apply, so that's something to consider. But also they do want to see that you're challenging yourself. I think, getting a B plus or something in an AP class could look better than having an A plus in a low level class. And if you're consistently getting A pluses in all these lower level classes, then and you don't ever challenge yourself, I think that doesn't look as good as than if you like stepped up to a new class and maybe didn't do as well. Um, so kind of finding that balance between, starting to level up, starting to take more challenging courses, but not overdoing it where you're going to suddenly do a lot worse. Um, but yeah, I think for me, I kind of wish I spent more time on like extracurriculars and like working on something I'm passionate about, for essays and things would have been better than me absolutely overloading it with courses. Yeah,
Great.
so kind of depends. I don't have a
Yeah,
great answer for that.
the next question is, what did you do during your summers in high school? Was it more academic or did you relax more?
Yeah, I have to think about what I did. I It was kind of a combination. I felt like I had a decent amount of summer work for my classes. I had a lot of projects and things that they handed to me. Um, but I also, went to camp, did kind of the regular summer things as well. I think there's a way you can kind of do both. You gotta, for me at least, if I take a full 3 months off of, of school and do absolutely nothing, I kind of regress in regards to my study abilities and ability to stay focused in classes for long periods of time. So keeping it practice and doing some work over the summer, I think is helpful to like kind of keep that work-ish mentality going so that you don't get to school and you're like completely overwhelmed. But I also found, a break is wonderful. I'm in college now and I miss my high school summers where I had more free time and wasn't just going from school to work and then back to school. Um, but yeah, I think summer's a great time to work on sort of a bigger project, something you're passionate about, even like crafting, different hobbies. I focus on like keeping busy with doing things you love as well, because once school starts, you kind of lose that free time to work on your hobbies and your passions and whatnot. So yeah, finding a balance between the two, I think is good, but I know we all definitely need a brain break for at least a little. But staying fresh and working on a bigger project is probably a good idea as well.
I had a question for me. Between sleep, study habits, and hobbies, if you could keep one of these to be consistent with during high school, which one would you choose?
Definitely sleep. I prioritize this a little too late, maybe when I kind of started college, but for me at least, getting 9, 10 hours of sleep, I feel so much better the next day, better mood. I'm more likely to get all my work done and I can actually focus in class. When maybe if I got 6, 7, 8 hours of sleep, I find class a lot more boring and I can't focus. And then I think when you are actually focused in class and taking good notes, then you have to do less studying for the exams as well because you already know the content. So it kind of saves you time down the line. Um, and school kind of helps with keeping up with your study habits because you're more motivated to work on schoolwork, less like you get home from school and you're absolutely exhausted and don't want to do anything. So it's good for not procrastinating. And also, I think study habits or sleep habits are good for, then you can have better time management. If I'm really tired, it'll take me double time to work on an assignment. Then I have less time to hang out with friends, less time to do hobbies and things. So for me, it was having that realization that I really need a lot of sleep and also being able to prioritize that. I know someone put in the chat like fear of missing out. If I'm hanging out with friends and like it gets late, I check myself out. Like even if everyone's still hanging out, I'm like, I know I need to sleep. I know I need to rest up if it's a weeknight. Maybe on the weekend, I don't, it doesn't matter to me as much, but if it's a weeknight, I'm like, I had a great time, but I will have a lot less of a great time tomorrow if I don't rest up. So identifying that like I will have a more enjoyable time the next day if I'm fully rested and knowing that like my friends care for me and are, understanding the fact that like I am going to head out when I know it's time and not kind of make a big fuss about it.
Yeah, I mean, it just looking at the chat right now, it doesn't seem like we have any more questions. So if anyone does, then I mean, feel free to ask right now. If not, I can do a quick outro and then you can continue on with your Sunday. All right. So well, I just want to say thank you guys. Thank you all for attending this peer up session. And a big thanks to Ashley for being a part of it and for being so friendly with us and just being great overall. And we hope you found something insightful or valuable today. And if you have any further questions or need further support, feel free to reach out to the peer up team. And we'd love to hear your suggestions for future topics. And so let us know what you would like us to cover next. And for more details on upcoming sessions, feel free to visit our website, which is peerup.org. And if you enjoyed today's session, make sure you're signed up so you can attend the next one, and let anybody else you know who might be interested to visit our website to join our community. And again, thank you all for attending today's session. So
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you
And
so
feel free to reach out over email if you in chat.
thank you so much for your time, Ashley. This really means a lot for us.
yeah,
Yeah, of course. I'm glad we can make it happen.